Commodore Vanderbilt was one of the towering figures who played a significant role in shaping modern society through his endeavors, and he is yet another protagonist in our series on giants. Cornelius Vanderbilt was born on May 27, 1794, in Narrow Lane, New York. He hailed from a lineage of Dutch settlers from Staten Island, and the original spelling of his family name was Vanderbilt. His upbringing was modest, marked by a life of scarcity as his parents established a small farm. His father supplemented their income by working as a boatman during that time, when farmers in Narrow Lane needed to transport their goods to the markets in Manhattan, situated at New York Harbor. Vanderbilt's father owned a boat used for ferrying cargo around the harbor, and young Cornelius often assisted him. Despite limited formal education, Cornelius displayed an inclination for learning, showing prowess in reading, writing, and arithmetic. However, his true passion lay in maritime activities, and at the age of 16, he aspired to purchase his own boat to venture into independent business endeavors. According to a report in a New York newspaper, Vanderbilt's mother offered to lend him $100 to acquire his own boat if he cleared a rocky field for cultivation, a daunting task. Cornelius commenced the arduous endeavor, but soon realized the need for assistance. He struck a deal with local youths, offering them rides in his new boat, in exchange for their help in clearing the area. Vanderbilt thereby formed his inaugural work crew, successfully completing the task and securing the borrowed funds. With this capital, he procured his first boat, laying the foundation for a thriving shipping enterprise that transported passengers to Manhattan Island. He promptly repaid the borrowed sum to his mother, marking the outset of his entrepreneurial journey. Vanderbilt's shipping enterprise flourished, affording him a comfortable livelihood and propelling his trajectory as a business magnate. This early experience instilled in him the adeptness to transform adversity into opportunity. At the tender age of 18 in 1812, during the height of the Anglo-American War, Vanderbilt navigated through challenging waters, demonstrating his resilience and resourcefulness in the face of adversity. Commodore Vanderbilt was among the influential figures shaping modern society through his endeavors, continuing our series on giants. Born on May 27, 1794, in Narrow Lane, New York, he hailed from Dutch settlers on Staten Island. Originally, the family name was Vanderbilt. His upbringing was humble, marked by a life of scarcity as his parents managed a small farm. His father also worked as a boatman, ferrying goods for farmers in Narrow Lane to markets in Manhattan. Young Cornelius, though not a diligent student, displayed proficiency in reading, writing, and arithmetic. His true passion lay in maritime activities. At the age of 16, he aspired to purchase his own boat for independent business ventures. His mother offered a loan of $100 if he cleared a rocky field for cultivation. Realizing the enormity of the task, he enlisted local youths by promising them rides in his future boat. Through collaborative effort, Vanderbilt cleared the land, repaid his mother, and acquired his first boat. This marked the genesis of his thriving shipping enterprise, ferrying passengers to Manhattan. His success enabled him to swiftly repay his debts and secure a comfortable life. This initial experience honed his skills in turning adversity into opportunity. In 1812, at just 18, during the Anglo-American War, Vanderbilt capitalized on his proximity to New York, securing a lucrative government contract to supply and transport soldiers to island fortresses. His adeptness in maritime logistics flourished during this period. He reinvested his earnings to expand his fleet, purchasing more ships and ferries. His ventures extended from Boston to New York, earning him the moniker Commodore. At 19, he married a distant cousin, and together they had 13 children. Vanderbilt favored his son George, involving him in maritime enterprises from a young age. Recognizing the burgeoning steamboat industry, he transitioned, joining Thomas Gibbons's steamboat company in 1817. Vanderbilt managed Gibbons' operations, expanding services from New York to Pennsylvania. Simultaneously, he continued his other ventures, displaying tireless dedication to his work. Vanderbilt's adept management made the transport service highly profitable. He innovatively combined ferry services with passenger accommodations, establishing a ferry line and hotel for passengers in New Jersey. The hotel was managed by his wife, an exemplary employee. Vanderbilt conducted a meticulous legal study that would propel the company forward. At the time, Robert Fulton and his partner Robert Livingston held a monopoly on steamboats on the Hudson River due to a New York state law. Capitalizing on this, Washington hired lawyer Daniel Webster to handle the case, which was extensively debated until it reached the United States Supreme Court. In a landmark decision presided over by Chief Justice John Marshall, the court deemed the exclusivity granted to the Fulton and Livingston partnership invalid, benefiting the good company and, indirectly, Vanderbilt himself. In 1826, following Thomas Gibbons' passing, his son sought to take over the business, but Vanderbilt aimed to acquire the company. With years of learning and practice, Commodore Vanderbilt possessed the experience and maturity to establish his own steamboat company. However, Gibbons' heir was reluctant to relinquish control, prompting Cornelius to forge his own path by purchasing boats and establishing the Desperate line, operating between New York and Philadelphia. Vanderbilt's steamboats eventually dominated the Hudson River after securing another state monopoly, outmaneuvering the competing Rivers Steamboat Association. Vanderbilt's victory against competitors stemmed from his implementation of what is now understood as predatory competition. By lowering tariffs to a point where competitors couldn't sustain operations, he effectively forced Gibbons' heir out of the business, ultimately acquiring the Union Line. Capitalizing on the populist sentiment sweeping the United States during Andrew Jackson's presidency, Vanderbilt introduced the People's Line, a popular transport service with minimal fares. This strategy propelled Vanderbilt to millionaire status within a few years. Gradually, he expanded his dominance to other routes, offering steam navigation services between New York and various cities in New England. Over time, Vanderbilt commissioned the construction of dozens of steamships renowned for their reliability and safety, solidifying his legacy as a titan of the maritime industry during a transformative era. Steamboat travel in Commodore Vanderbilt's era could be perilous and unpredictable. Despite the inherent risks, Vanderbilt distinguished his business by offering the safest and most reasonably priced service of the time. This commitment to excellence fueled the growth of his fortune and business empire. However, Vanderbilt's financial success did not grant him favor among New York's elite due to his limited academic education, poor grammar, and perceived crude manners. Despite being labeled as ignorant by some, Vanderbilt remained unfazed by such criticisms and eschewed ostentation, leading a simple life characterized by discipline and humility. In 1850, Vanderbilt had a transformative idea that would further elevate his wealth: the creation of the Access and Tracy Company. This venture facilitated transoceanic transport, ferrying passengers from New York on the Atlantic coast to San Francisco on the Pacific coast. The company's timing was impeccable, coinciding with the gold rush in California, which exponentially increased demand for tickets to the region. To expand operations, Vanderbilt forged partnerships with transport companies near his destinations and stopovers. In a legendary incident, a Central American company partnered with Vanderbilt but reneged on payment. Instead of pursuing lengthy legal proceedings, Vanderbilt took matters into his own hands by undercutting the debtor company's prices and essentially driving them out of business within 2 years. Fueled by a competitive spirit and a relentless desire to expand his empire, Vanderbilt adopted monopolistic tactics against competitors. Despite owning a fleet of over 100 steamboats and being the largest employer in the United States during the transportation boom of the 1840s, he continued to innovate, prioritizing speed, comfort, luxury, and affordability for his passengers. In summary, Commodore Vanderbilt's business acumen, coupled with his willingness to adapt and innovate, propelled him to the forefront of the transportation industry, solidifying his legacy as a pioneering figure in American business history. The domination of the transportation market afforded Commodore Vanderbilt certain luxuries, prompting him to purchase his own yacht and embark on a long-awaited vacation with his extensive family to Europe. Entrusting his business to company managers during his absence, Vanderbilt soon encountered a setback when these managers attempted to defraud him and gain control of the company. Although the fraud was thwarted, it resulted in a significant financial loss for the Commodore, amounting to thousands of dollars. Furthermore, Vanderbilt faced defeats in his endeavors, particularly when he ventured into passenger transport across the North Atlantic in an attempt to challenge the monopoly of the British government subsidiary, the Sugarcane Blitz Company. This venture proved disastrous, teaching Vanderbilt that victory wasn't always guaranteed. By the 1850s, Vanderbilt recognized the diminishing growth potential of maritime transport lines and identified a burgeoning market with greater expansion potential: railroads. Consequently, he gradually divested from maritime transport, reinvesting the proceeds into the acquisition and construction of railways across North America. Anticipating the impact of railway growth on maritime business, Vanderbilt transitioned into the railroad industry by purchasing existing railroads in the New York area. With an aggressive entrepreneurial spirit and a commitment to continuous reinvestment of profits, Vanderbilt emerged as a railroad tycoon by the end of the 1860s, forming one of the earliest large corporations in the land transportation sector. Despite his immense wealth and success in business, Vanderbilt couldn't shield his youngest and favorite son, George Washington Vanderbilt, from the turmoil of the American Civil War. George, a trained soldier, served in the Union Army despite his father's wealth and influence. During the Civil War, Cornelius Vanderbilt played a pivotal role on the Union side, contributing significantly to Abraham Lincoln's efforts by donating one of his steamships, the Vanderbilt, to the Union naval fleet. This act of generosity earned Vanderbilt a gold medal from the American Congress. However, amidst the triumph of the Union victory and the honor of receiving the Vanderbilt Medal, he suffered a profound personal loss. His beloved son and likely heir to his empire, George, succumbed to a severe flu contracted while serving in the Army. George's untimely death, before engaging in any major battles, deeply impacted Vanderbilt. The Commodore faced a dilemma as he couldn't entrust his daughters with the family business, and one of his sons, Cornelius suffered from psychological disorders. Consequently, Vanderbilt had to rely on his eldest son, William, to take over the reins of the family enterprise, despite William being 70 years old at the time. Despite his advancing age, Vanderbilt remained actively involved in business matters, albeit with growing concerns about the future of his empire. As William assumed more responsibility, he became adept in the financial markets, facilitating the expansion of the Vanderbilt empire into roads in Michigan, Chicago, and southern Canada. In 1868, Vanderbilt suffered another blow with the death of his wife, Sophia, who was considered instrumental in his successes. Tormented by these losses and facing advancing age, Vanderbilt's competitors speculated about his diminishing stature, especially during negotiations over access fees to his railways. Shareholders of the Central High Road questioned Vanderbilt's authority, believing that his absence and reliance on William made him vulnerable to manipulation due to William's perceived inexperience. However, despite these challenges, Vanderbilt continued to navigate the complexities of business, driven by his relentless pursuit of success and expansion. Without reaching an agreement, Commodore Vanderbilt resorted to a controversial tactic during a harsh winter that gripped the country. With his railways being the sole access to New York due to the stalemate with Central High Road shareholders, Vanderbilt implemented a drastic measure. He refused to allow any trains, whether freight or passenger, from Central High Road to access New York. To enforce this decision, armed guards were stationed to block all access points, leading to significant losses for Central High Road. As a result of these losses, the share prices of Central High Road plummeted on the New York Stock Exchange. Vanderbilt capitalized on this opportunity, purchasing a majority of the company's shares, thereby expanding his empire significantly. With this acquisition, Vanderbilt's empire extended from New York to Chicago, solidifying its status as the largest transport empire globally. The consolidation of the railways led to the construction of the Grand Central Station, a monumental undertaking that brought together the three major railway lines in the region. This station, later renamed Grand Central Terminal, became an iconic landmark and a major tourist attraction in New York City. It remains a symbol of Vanderbilt's influence, with a statue of the Commodore adorning the station entrance since 1929. By this time, The Vanderbilt empire had become a colossal business entity, employing over 180,000 people. Despite this display of strength, Vanderbilt remained determined to acquire Erie Railroad, a significant railway line in the United States. Wall Street investors took notice of Vanderbilt's interest, sparking speculation in Erie Railroad shares. However, Vanderbilt faced an unexpected setback in his pursuit when two unknown investors orchestrated a cunning and unprecedented move in the stock market. This maneuver, characterized by its genius and unfairness, marked a turning point in the stock market landscape, which until then had operated with minimal regulations. Jay Gould and Jim Fisk devised a scheme that would later become a criminal act, but succeeded in unsettling even the renowned Commodore Vanderbilt. At the time, company shares were issued on paper certificates, creating bearer documents. Aware that Vanderbilt intended to acquire the majority of Erie Railroad shares, Gould and Fisk resorted to falsifying the company's shares by issuing thousands of counterfeit shares, a practice known as share dilution. Consequently, the company's shares multiplied rapidly, causing Vanderbilt to spend increasingly more money in his attempt to acquire the majority. Unbeknownst to Vanderbilt, he ended up purchasing a substantial number of worthless shares, failing to secure the majority of genuine shares. The scam incurred losses amounting to almost $1 billion in today's values, resulting in national ridicule for Vanderbilt. Additionally, the duo of Fisk and Gould retained the money injected by Vanderbilt, subsequently leading the company into bankruptcy and withdrawing the funds they had previously injected. To exacerbate matters, they flaunted their success by giving interviews and manipulating newspaper articles, further humiliating Vanderbilt. Despite Vanderbilt's efforts to pursue the perpetrators, he faced defeat, leaving a lasting mark on the financial market's history. Recognizing the saturation in the country's railway lines, Vanderbilt realized that the game had changed, with freight prices decreasing due to an excess of lines. Consequently, he shifted his focus to offering freight services to the emerging oil industry, spearheaded by the legendary John D. Rockefeller. Rockefeller, requiring efficient transportation for his rapidly growing oil business, entered into an exclusive contract with Vanderbilt for freight services. While the partnership thrived for a few years, the emergence of a new competitor in the railroad market strained the relationship between Vanderbilt and Rockefeller. Tom Scott, the president of Pennsylvania Railroad, emerged as a formidable competitor to John D. Rockefeller in the railroad market. With Scott's strategic maneuvers and advantageous contract offers, Rockefeller began to realize that Commodore Vanderbilt was no longer the sole titan of the industry. However, over time, the tables turned, and Rockefeller gained dominance, pressuring railroad owners to confront the new tycoon. Vanderbilt, aligning with Tom Scott, formed an alliance that hindered Rockefeller's ability to transport oil through the country's main railroads. This compelled Rockefeller to explore alternative transportation methods, leading to the development of oil pipelines. Vanderbilt witnessed the decline of the railroad market in his final days, which began to crumble shortly after his passing. In his later years, Vanderbilt lived in opulence, residing in a luxurious home and owning an elaborate private stable, housing some of America's finest horses. His new wife influenced him to embark on a new religious path, prompting him to dedicate himself to philanthropy. Vanderbilt's contributions included funding the establishment of Vanderbilt University in Nashville, Tennessee. After battling prolonged illnesses, Vanderbilt passed away on January 4, 1877, at the age of 82. His estimated fortune of around $200 million positioned him among the richest men of the 19th century, alongside figures like John Jacob Astor and John D. Rockefeller. Vanderbilt's entrepreneurial journey underscores the importance of innovation and adaptability in remaining at the forefront of the business world, leaving a lasting legacy of job creation and economic impact.